All right. So we are, excuse me, hold on. All right. So we are going to be reviewing chapter 22 through 26. And I'm so mad because my husband, he must have taken my highlighter because I had an erasable highlighter that I was
Ooh.
using and I was keeping it like away from everybody. And I went to look for it and I can't find it. So
Oh,
I'm not happy about that. So I had to use my erasable little gel pen and just like make marks and stuff like that. So,
okay.
oh well. Improvise, right?
That's right.
Okay, so I did a lot of marking. I marked off sections that I wanted to just mention or talk about because these chapters actually were pretty interesting. It made me feel good to read them and then not be a repeat of what we have already read. So on page 352, section 22.1, the notary should understand the disciplinary authority and process of the state or territorial notary oversight agency. So I was reading that paragraph, and it's basically saying, every state has its own, laws on how they reprimand the notaries and what
Right.
things have to transpire in order for them to, even consider reprimand. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It wasn't anything I wasn't unfamiliar with because I know every state has their own laws, but to see the process of how they take a complaint and then how it escalates, like the tiers or levels.
Right, right. But there it's
So
going
I,
back to knowing what your states, look at your states and know what your state's laws are.
yep, absolutely, absolutely. It's so much easier to avoid getting into legal trouble than it is to get into, like if you're just blatantly not doing anything you're supposed to do, then yeah, you're going to get in trouble. It's going to catch up with you.
Right.
So
Well, and there,
uh,
there it says on the neck at on 354 self-report. If you think,
yeah,
just
you have the
admit to
mhm,
it.
yeah, yeah, you have the ability to do that, and it looks good on your part. It really does. It plays in our favor. Now on page 353, section 22.2, the notary should understand the disciplinary sanctions which may be imposed for notarial misconduct and their consequences. So I'm just going to read this here. If in the course of the disciplinary process notaries are found to have committed misconduct, the oversight agency has authority to impose a range of sanctions. Those sanctions typically include a formal reprimand, prescribed notary education or re education, suspension or revocation of the notary commission, payment of the cost of the disciplinary procedure, and or a fine. Suspension or termination of the notary commission is a most serious matter. So if nothing else, they really try to just make sure that you're aware before they just say, okay, you're just terminated.
Good. Yeah.
So that was good to
Yep.
know. That was good to know. The notary whose commission is suspended must immediately cease to perform notarizations and await reinstatement of the commission. If the commission has been terminated, the individual named in the commission is no longer a notary and must immediately cease to perform notarizations. Kind of feel like that just repeating this up. Okay, whatever. So yeah,
Mhm.
pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. Like I said, of the steps, you know, like first this, first that, like it's and the notary education or re-education. I kind of feel like there are so many notaries that are not educated. It's kind of like if the states did the due diligence of making sure that all of us are educated from the get, instead of just saying, here's what you can and can't do, read it, and you're a notary. It's like, what? So
But I think some of that it falls on also your responsibility as a notary to
true.
educate
That's true
yourself,
too.
like we're doing,
That's true too.
and
Hmm.
I don't know about other states, but my state sends out a bulletin, a notary bulletin that like a newsletter, just kind of like the National Notary Association. You get the bulletins. They tell you, some of it may be repeated, but they
Good.
tell you this stuff. Read it, educate yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If they could stop seeing these commercials saying make six figures as a notary signing agent, then maybe they'll read more. I don't know.
Exactly.
That's my opinion. All right. So going to page 354. I marked off 22.4, 22.5, and then 22.6. All of those were interesting to me. So just like you
Mhm.
were saying, the notary should report mistakes and misconduct of other notaries to the commissioning official or notary oversight agency as well. People don't really do that. They spend more time telling us about it in Facebook, right? Like, oh, I had to go correct a notary error, and let me tell you what they did. So
Mhm.
eh, eh, and then the thing I hate is that the notary doesn't know that they made the mistake. Sometimes they just don't work with the notary anymore. And then, as far as companies go, and then they'll just send another notary out to fix it. And it's like, well, that really doesn't help. Let that notary know where they messed up. Even if you don't want to work with them anymore, still let them know they messed up.
Well, and that's how a lot of us learn. We learn from our mistakes.
Yeah,
We make a mistake, we learn
right,
from it. I mean, I sure
right,
do.
right. Absolutely, absolutely. Now, let me see. Now, the notary should report any material change in status to the commissioning official or notary oversight agency and temporarily cease notarial functions until approved. So, making sure if you make any changes, make sure that you're not doing no notary work until you get permission from the state that they approved all your changes and that you're good to go. So, it basically puts you on a pause if you got to make any changes. And depending on how quick your state responds, hopefully it won't be paused for too long.
Hopefully not. Yeah.
All right, so
But a
22.6.
lot of it to me is like common sense, but it's
A lot of this stuff it is, but the
it needs to be
saying,
said over and over.
common sense is not so common.
No.
Yeah. All right, so 22.6. The notary should be aware of the commission expiration date and record the commission expiration date on each notarial certificate. Now, I know that um, some certificates don't ask you to write it in, but for those
Right.
states where it's in the stamp, your stamp records it, and then of course all the states, for the most part, they have the requirements of what your stamp should have anyway.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Mine has it on there, so it's on the stamp.
mine's too. Mine's too.
But
All right.
staying aware of what that date is, so when it's getting close,
Mm-hmm.
renew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Page 357. I, oh, you just want to get up here so bad, don't you? Just oh, now you. Okay, sorry.
You got a cat that
All
does
right.
that too, huh?
Yep, she just jumps on up whenever she sees a little
Yep.
room, like, okay, mommy, no, get off my lap, please. Okay, section 22.8 on 357. Um, oh, shoot. I thought that was the cat about to throw up. That's you over there. Sorry, I thought the cat was, she spit up earlier. And so I
Oh,
thought that was her gagging. I was about to say, oh, goodness. Okay,
not now.
22.8.
Yep.
The notary should, if intending to renew the notary commission, timely apply for renewal in order to avoid a lapse in the notary commission, which you just said. Like just making
Right.
sure, because I mean, just think about it. How long did it take for you to get your commission initially when you applied?
You know what? It didn't take very long. I think
Really?
yeah, it didn't take very long. It was within a couple weeks, so it didn't take long at all.
You know what?
But then you
Mine's
had to wait for your stamp and stuff like that to come and all that.
right. It's
So
a process. It is.
it's
It's
a
a
process.
process. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think it took 4 weeks for me to get it, because I think within 3 weeks, I could see it on the website saying I was a notary, I was commissioned. But then it took a whole week to actually receive the paper certificate. And then I want to say another week to get my stamp. I think so. All in all, felt like a 6 week process. Getting everything, and then when you renew, you got to do the same thing. You got to get a new stamp. I'm not gonna have to wait for the paper to come. Oh no, I will.
You probably
I
will.
will. Yeah, because you know what? That sucks. I think the certificate.
I think mine has
We're
the date on it or with the commission.
yeah.
See, and for
Yeah.
us here, every 4 years, when you renew, you have to take the test again. You have to take the class and test again. So every 4 years, we have to retest and do it all over.
Yep, it has my expiration date on it, so I'm gonna have to get a new. They're gonna have to
So you're
send me
looking,
a
I
new
mean,
paper.
start applying, I would say probably 2 months ahead of time
Yep,
to make
you're
sure you
right.
get it.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Just to make sure it comes on time because you just you just don't know. Can't be sure. All right, hold on. I gotta put it back in the folder I pulled it out of, or I'm gonna be looking like, now I know I saw that somewhere. Not that I'm gonna need it, but all right. Some notaries decide not to renew their commission and then change their mind or procrastinate in renewing them. As a result, their commission expire and those individuals lose both their status as notaries and their authority to perform notarizations.
Mhm.
Mm. De- Stop. No, no, no. Depending upon the length of the lapse in the commission and the jurisdiction in which the lapse occurs, a notary who has not timely renewed the notary commission may be able to renew the commission or instead may be required to apply as a new notary applicant, possibly with the need to retake notary education programs and to be re-examined. Wow. Okay.
So we have to do that anyhow. Every 4 years, we have to redo it anyhow. So
Hmm. All right, that is chapter 22. Very informative. It's just nice, even though knowing these things, it's just nice to read and have it reiterated. Because, like you said, it's just listening to it over and over again. It definitely helps to ingrain it in the brain.
right.
All right, chapter 23. I marked section 23.1, and then I kind of just like put some slide. Okay, so let's see. Okay, the notary should understand the advantages and disadvantages of notary bonds. I always love reading about the bonds and errors and omissions insurance. I really do. Because you see it back and forth in the Facebook groups, people discussing it and um, should I get it? Why do I have to get it? And it's like, you really did you didn't read it? Just read the information on why you should get it. Why is it important? You know,
But are there
just
states out there that don't require it?
it is. There are states that do not require you to obtain a bond in order to be a notary, but there is no state that says you are prohibited from obtaining a bond.
Oh, see, we're required to get a bond. We have to.
I am too. In Florida, we are
The
too.
E&O, we don't have to do the E&O. That's optional, but the bond, we have to.
Yep, some states is not required. So,
Oh, wow.
but like I said, no state prohibits you
Right.
from having a policy.
Yeah.
They don't. So it's up to those who where it's optional. It's up to them if they want to obtain it. But to each his own. I definitely want all the coverage. I want all the
Me too.
coverage.
I can't imagine not getting it. I just don't know.
Mhm, mhm.
It's like
Now let's
insurance for
see.
your car. I mean,
Exactly. Exactly. Now, the principal purpose of a notary bond is to protect both document signers and third parties affected by notarized documents. In the event the signers or third parties suffer financial injuries as the result of a faulty notarization performed by a notary covered by the bond. And then I also marked off here. First, notary bonds assist the image of notaries. When a notary is bonded, the notary benefits from the general view that individuals who are bonded are more diligent and trustworthy. And certainly, the public image is due in part to the general knowledge that some amount of financial accountability is guaranteed by the notary bond, although the general public is not well informed about the face value of your notary bond anyway. Then, second, in cases involving small claims for damages, payment of the claims under notary bonds may be sufficient to conclude the cases without the need for protracted and expensive litigations. To emphasize the important point already made, if the surety company settles a small claim against the bonded notary, the notary will have to repay the bond company. Thus, bonds are intended to protect third parties up to the coverage limits of the bonds, but not really to protect notaries, which we know that. That's why we need the E&O insurance. And let's see. I marked this here. When a notary bond is purchased, it covers claims against the performance of the notary for the term of the notary commission, up to the cumulative amount, maximum amount of the bond. For instance, if a notary has a 15,000 bond and the surety company pays 10,000 on a claim against the notary, only 5,000 in coverage remains. So that's good to know too, that your bond does not reset until you renew it. So whatever you have, that's supposed to follow you for your term that you're commissioned. After that, if you don't renew, you're not covered. You have nothing. So you got to renew. And because we have to renew it with our commission anyway, we don't have to worry about that.
Exactly.
All right. The notary should acquire a bond if required by law and maintain the bond in good standing during the term of the notary commission. On page 36.4. Let me see. Why did I mark these off? Oh, okay. So yeah, we know notaries have full and unlimited personal liability for all of our mistakes and misconduct that cause financial injuries. And we must follow the law requiring the purchase of notary bonds in many jurisdictions. And in the other states and territories, the purchase of bonds by notaries is optional. But in those bond optional jurisdictions, the opinion of this author, like he said, notary bonds should be purchased to protect third parties against intentional wrongdoing, especially fraud and theft and negligence. All right. Now here's the fun part. Section 23.3 on page 365. Notary liability insurance, notary malpractice insurance, or errors and omissions, E&O insurance. It could be named all three. Covers notaries for their negligence in the performance of notarizations. So,
Cover you.
exactly. Let's see. On 367, mark this page up. 367, 368. Yeah, it should be observed that liability insurance entitles the insured notary to be defended by the insurance company against claims of notary malpractice and to have the insurance company pay for any legitimate or successful claims. And then, oh yeah, and this is an important one too because I was talking to a fellow notary and she was just saying, like if we do anything, like if we're doing signings, she was like, wouldn't they go after the company that hired us first before they come to us? And it's like, well, yeah, but this paragraph makes perfect sense. So because we really don't know what type of insurance they have, like we don't know if their insurance will cover us. So we
Right.
can't assume that. So on page 368, I have marked this paragraph where it says, incidentally, many businesses, including law firms, commonly carry umbrella insurance coverage to protect against negligence, liability caused by their agents and employees. These umbrella policies should be carefully reviewed to determine whether the conduct of notary employees is covered. Indeed, some umbrella policies contain express exclusions for notarial activity or notarial misconduct. You look just like I look like. What? Exclusions for notarial activity or misconduct. So that kind of answers the question of what me and her were discussing, right?
Yep.
We don't know for sure.
We don't
And
know.
even if they do have the policy, if it has anywhere saying that it excludes notarial activity and misconduct, we're on our own. Glad I read that.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
because I was thinking about that, and I even Googled it because I was like, well, how do we know if their insurance covers us? You know,
You don't unless you ask, and you're not gonna just up and ask. At least I wouldn't think to want my
now
covered.
for some companies, they have a lengthy application process, so you're able to read if that is so. But for some of them, they don't have a process at all. You just go on there, you present your information, and they um, verify that your information is correct, and then they start sending you assignments.
Wow.
So you don't really know. Yeah, so you don't really know.
Yeah.
Okay, I
And
marked
see,
off
I know right now
23.
I don't work with any of those companies, so I wouldn't know. So since I only
Okay,
do the general right now, so I wouldn't know. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Some of them are really lengthy, so it makes sense to go ahead and just read everything that you have to fill out. But for some of them, it's not like that at all. It's just real quick and easy. Now, I marked off section 23.4 on 368. Let's see, the notary should acquire notary, no. Yeah, the notary should acquire notary liability insurance in an amount sufficient to protect against negligent notarial performance. So when a notaries are saying like, hey, what is your policy? What is your policy? For those notaries who are doing loan signings for um, property, they need to have a higher policy of E&O, because what if you did something wrong and that loan couldn't close, and then now they got to requote it, and interest rate changes
Right.
daily. So if they promised them this loan amount at this interest rate, and then you messed up, and they get the paperwork a couple of days later, and now they got to redo all the paperwork and have another notary come, that quote it's got to get requoted after a certain period. Like, okay, well, we got to do the quote for this day. What if the interest rate went up?
Thanks. Yep. Yeah.
They can possibly, try to pull up, claims against you. Like, hey,
Come after.
that's not cool. They can come after you. It's their right, if they
Right.
want to. But yeah, so if you were doing it for a loan, it's for a home, it's $550,000, and that fell through. What? You're gonna get tangled up. It fell through. Your E&O insurance is only 25,000. It's not going
Ouch.
to cover. So, yeah, exactly. So, it's just like you said, being careful, making sure you know what you're doing, paying attention to your certificates, you know, and making sure you get the paperwork signed right. If you have any questions, ask. People, they get so afraid to ask questions. Ask questions.
Yeah.
They appreciate you asking because they know she really cares about not messing this up because we don't want her to mess it up.
Right.
So ask the
Exactly.
questions. Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no dumb question. Just ask it.
exactly. It's like, oh, they're gonna think I don't know. They're gonna be grateful that you didn't mess it up trying to just assume this was they wanted. All right, let's go to chapter 24. All right, so what did I block off here? I had crossed off the no, the two paragraphs on 376. And I really liked reading this chapter because a lot of notaries became notaries for their employers. Hold on just a second. My husband knows I'm on a meeting, so he's texting me. Okay. So the first, So first sentence here under on 376 under standard explanations. When a notary is also an employee, a genuinely unique employment relationship exists. Many employers and notaries do not fully understand it, yet the proper roles of the employer and the notary employee are quite important to the correct performance of document notarizations. Now, what I liked about this chapter was, and we all know this, the employers, they don't know anything about notary. All they know is they need a notary because sometimes they have transactions that come through that require one and they don't want to have to go looking for one. So they would prefer the notary be there. And a lot of times notaries, they are not educating their employer on what they can and cannot do. And then they're allowing their employer to almost bully them into doing something that they cannot do lawfully, you know?
Mhm.
So let me see. And then also how it was saying attorneys being notaries. Well, the reason why they have to still get notaries because they cannot notarize a document that they've drafted up. You can't
Yeah.
serve as both the attorney and the notary on the same, document. Or you shouldn't anyway. It just would not make sense for you to do it. But some people do it anyway. And then let's see. I marked off 24.1 on 377. Right. This is what I was just saying. How after the employee becomes a notary, they really should take out the time to educate their employer on what they can and cannot do, you know?
Mhm.
And then I was reading where it says the employer cannot, not unless the employee signs some documents stating that they can't, but the employer can't tell the notary not to charge for their service. So I thought that was interesting. So I was like, oh, really?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't remember that one, but yeah.
hmm I'm trying to see where I had marked it off at. Mm, see. And then not being bullied into letting your employer, use you to their advantage. Like, oh, I'm gonna be stepping out the office today, but a document has to be notarized, and I'll just sign it when I get back. If you're here, can you just notarize it for me, and I'll do it when I get back?
Mhm.
No, I can't do that. But you work here, you know me. No, no, I can't. I cannot do that. You need to sign it and let me notarize it while you're here. Like I
Yeah.
can't
Take
just.
advantage of the relationship. Yeah.
hmm Trying to see where I found that at. Notaries should understand the limited role which the employer has in the supervision of control. Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. The employer cannot control the performance of official notarial functions because the notary knows what they can and cannot do. And the employer can't just make up things for you to do. Like, well, as a notary, you should be able to know. Well, I can't. Can't do that.
Right.
Let me see. And then they should not be able to see your journal.
All that stays locked up.
hmm And the stamp. Now, you know what? When I went to get my remote online notary application notarized, I noticed it was at a check cashing place. I forgot the name of it. I forget the name of it, but I went to a check cashing place and I noticed the notary just had her stamp just sitting up there on the counter. It was her and another
Mhm.
person working there, and it was just sitting out in the open on the counter. And her
Seen
notary
that in a
journal,
bank.
yeah,
I've seen it in a bank.
it's like
Hmm.
wow. And in banks, they usually have a drawer with a key. So you should probably
Right.
keep it in there. I would keep it in my drawer, under lock and key.
It could be that they just finished a notary job, but we live in a small town. So you go in the bank, you get up there right away because there's nobody in the bank because it's such a small
Uh-huh.
town. But hers was
Oh,
just sitting right there by the window. When you walked up, you could have reached in and just If she turned her back, reached in
Oh,
and taken it, it's just sitting right there. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
wow.
I should
Yeah,
have said something to her, but
right.
like, wow.
Like, girl, because people think like nobody wants my notary stamp. You don't know what people's intentions are. You know,
Hmm,
you just don't. You don't want to even
You
give
don't
them the
trust,
opportunity.
no, don't trust anybody with that stuff.
Hmm. I can't find it. I'm sure I marked it off somewhere though. I'm sure I'll
I'm
come
skimming
across it.
through to see, but I'm not seeing it.
Hmm. Oh well.
Well,
So
I'm
let me
sure
see.
it's
I
in
marked
there.
up notary. Employee should not allow employer to direct or influence the notary employee to violate notary law. Yep, we already talked about that. And then let's see.
Hmm.
The obvious problem for the notary employee, I'm on page 380, is perceived risk of losing his or her job. Yeah. Or at least the perceived risk of creating a hostile work environment if the employer's attempt to influence or direct misconduct is rebuffed. Hopefully, the notary employee will have laid the groundwork for dealing with the situation early in the notarial relationship. Second, if the employer nevertheless directs or suggests improper conduct to be undertaken by the notary employee should immediately discontinue any notarization that may be in progress and ask to speak privately with the employer or superior. And let's see. Third, if the employer is suggesting misconduct in order to accommodate or help a client, such as a client who cannot attend the notarization ceremony, a client who does not have proper identification, or a client who is simply in a hurry. The notary employee should remind the employer that people regularly change their minds, cause sign of remorse. If the client later decides the transaction was not a good idea after all and wants to challenge the notarization, the client can reveal the faulty aspects of the notarization. Mm. And people do that all the time. They're not happy with something, they're going to rat you out in a heartbeat. Okay. Herein, employers has not been convinced. This should be really necessary. The notary should not allow the employer to possess, use, alter, discard, destroy the notary's employee's official notary seal. Hmm.
In other words, it's your stuff. Don't let them have anything
Here
to
it
do with
goes.
it.
Page 385, section 24.6.
Notary should. Oh, okay, there it is.
Hmm. Mhm. The notary employee should, unless the law provides otherwise, not permit the employer to determine whether the notary employee will charge notarial fees, the amount of the fees, or whether to share the fees with the employer. I like that. So some businesses customarily provide notarial services to their customers, like banks, law firms, hospitals, nursing homes, and others. And typically there is no charge for those services. But the notary employee has agreed not to charge for notarizations as part of the employment agreement. And hopefully, in the notary employee's salary, there is compensation in part for the notary service, along with liability insurance coverage paid for by the employer. Now, I was reading that it says that the notary sh- should request that the employer purchase insurance to cover them because we may not be covered up under their business insurance.
Right. That makes sense.
Hmm. Like we were reading before, it may have some type of exclusion in there where notarial acts are not included.
Hmm.
So then what? So it does say, though, under the statutory or common law of every U.S. jurisdiction, it is possible and often likely that employers will have unlimited legal liability for notary misconduct committed by their notary employees under agency principles. This result is so serious that it ought to persuade employers to support notary education and continuing education for their notary employees and to acquire sizable liability insurance coverage for notarial malpractice. So, yeah, Very important. All right, let's see. What did I mark off here? 24.8 and 24.9. Oh, that's what we were just talking about. Asking that the employer purchase the insurance for us
Right.
if we're
Mhm.
going to be, doing that. And then I like this, how it said that we should also request that they purchase a membership in at least one of the notary associations so that we
Hey,
can
that's a good
be,
idea.
be informed of changes and updates. You know? All right. Go on to chapter 25. I didn't do a whole lot of marking here. I did some marking though. Mm, Okay. So page 394. Talking about notary attorneys.
Mhm.
And we talked a little bit about that. Acting as dual agents, notarizing documents they've drafted, prepared, or reviewed for their own clients is a notarial violation. And then it says non-notary attorneys have impersonated notaries by pilfering notary seals and forging notarizations. Can you believe that? I was reading that like, man, man. You just would never think something as simple as that would be something people just intend to try to do. It's like, really? Just, And then
Well,
let's see.
it's talking about attorneys and stuff. Attorneys have directed their
Mhm.
staff notaries to falsify the dates on notarizations. I mean, this is an attorney. I mean,
Stop it. Oh, see? Oh, I knew that was going to happen. No, no. And then you're going to get tangled up in my court. Okay. Exactly. And they ask us to do that all the time when doing loan signings. If something was missed, can we just date it for, the time that since we already met with them? It's like, no, I have to redo a whole new notarization. I can't just go back, you know?
right.
They don't want to hear that. Right. Let's see. Page 396, 25.1. Should assist the attorney to understand. Yeah. It's all on us to educate those who hire us on notary
Right.
practices because they really don't know. All they know is it says on here, I need a notary. That's all they know. They don't
Exactly.
know what we can, what we cannot do. They don't know the whole process of correcting, and they don't understand that. Hey, why should you keep bothering me? The door is not completely closed. You can go out. Okay, let me see. The notary attorney and the attorney who employs or supervises a notary should understand the significance of proper performance of notarizations. Yeah. And some people don't want to know. They're just like, okay, whatever, just do what you got to do. It's like,
Mhm.
okay. Now I had marked off this hypothetical example here on 398. Now it was saying here's a common, realistic, and unfortunate hypothetical situation. An attorney contacts a client to obtain the client's notarization for an affidavit, but the client is unavailable to appear for the notarization by the deadline on which it is needed. So the attorney asks the client's permission to prepare the affidavit and sign the client's name without the client being present, and the client agrees. If a notary attorney notarizes an affidavit for a lawsuit for the client who is not present for the ceremony, the result is far more than the one violation of notarizing for the absent signer. And then it lists the violations here.
Mm-hmm.
So notarize, I mean, it's the violation of the being absent, violation of forgery. Let's see, violation for falsely certifying in the certificate of notarization that the jurat or affidavit was verified under oath. Lawyer ethics violation for dishonesty. My goodness, look at this list.
No, it's like, wow.
Mhm. When it is filed with the court and opposing parties, it is untruthful and invalid. That falsification is a fraud perpetrated upon the court. Let me see, there is a lawyer ethics violation for placing the client's case at risk. Lawyer ethics violation for involving the client in the series of falsifications and violations. So convincing the client, like, hey, I can do it all for you. It's okay. You give me permission, okay, I'll do it. So no.
The
And let's
notary
see.
stand your ground. You know the rules.
And let's see. The notary attorney's intentional failure to abide by notary law in regard to the absent signer. The failure to administer the required oath or affirmation. Because even though all affidavits don't end up being a jurat, in this case it was. So you can't sign a certificate saying that you administered something to a person who was not there.
Right. Yep.
Then there's the failure of the notary to self-report the violations. Let's see, and that's it. But that's enough. That's 9
That's
violations
plenty. That's
right there.
just in that little bit of, just in that one thing.
Yeah. It's such a small act for such a big, set of violations. The notary attorney should not serve in the dual role as an attorney and notary for a document that they drafted, prepared, or reviewed. It's the same thing with witnessing. Even though, like here in Florida, I can be a witness on a document that I'm notarizing, they really strongly suggest, if at all possible, that I get the signer to find a witness. And if at all, as a last resort, okay, I'll be the witness to the document, But if it needs more than one, then you're still gonna have to find another person because I can only,
Right.
can only be one witness. Okay, let's see. What else did I mark up here? Page 400, section 25.6. Nope, we already said that. When a notary attorney serves in the dual roles for a document drafted, prepared, or reviewed for the client, a conflict of interest arises. In the role of lawyer, the attorney represents the private client with a vested interest for a substantial legal fee to validate the document. While in the role of notary, for a little or no fee, the notary represents the government with the obligation to serve as an impartial witness. You can't be impartial when you already bear financial um, benefit to it. Like you're going to benefit financially from this transaction. So of course you want to make sure it gets, notarized and signed. This cat will not leave me alone. I don't know what I did.
Because you're busy doing something.
She's
Mine's
never
sitting right
like,
here, sitting right in front of me, and I'm surprised he's not over here bugging me. He's
oh
just
my
staring at me.
God. Wow. Now let me see. Why did I mark this off here on page 401? The paragraph where it starts off curiously.
What?
On page 401. Ooh, it sounds like it's raining. Yes, it is. Okay. Curiously, if a challenge to the validity of a notarization performed by a notary attorney for her or his own client on a document drafted, prepared, and or reviewed by the notary attorney were to be asserted in a lawsuit, the lawyer would have to be a witness. So then again, 2 dual roles, notary attorney and attorney witness. No notary should place herself or himself in that position. So that was pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. And then the last mark, 402, section 25.7. Notary attorney, an attorney who employs or supervises a notary should complete or direct the completion of a notary journal entry for each document, which we already know. If you're a notary in any jurisdiction, you want to keep track in that journal. Want to keep track. All right, last chapter, 26. Let me see. I marked up 26.1. Yes, go out. Get out. Get out. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. So 26.1. The notary who's not an attorney should understand. Oh, excuse me. Unauthorized practice of law constitutes a serious violation of law. So I remember I had a family. They contacted me and they were saying that their child was going to be traveling outside the country and they needed a document saying that it was okay for them to travel with, I think, the wife's brother or the husband's brother. So I told her I cannot draw up the document for you. I was like, you could maybe Google a document, and if you want, I can print it out for you. Because they're like, well, we don't have a printer. I'm like, I could print it out for you, but I can't draw up the document. I can't tell you what document to use. But you can tell me, if you want me to print it out for you, because I do have a printer at my home. So I let her use my laptop. She found the document and I printed it out for her. And then she signed it and I, did my part. And so when it was time for them to come back, she was saying that that was the wrong document, that she needed more, like she needed another document for them to come back. Like the document, it couldn't serve for them to go and come back. And so I told her again, well, I can't choose a document for you. I can't make a document for you. I was like, if you want, like, you can maybe you can handwrite a letter or something like that and fill in all the information that they need. And then I can attach, a certificate to it. So I have the certificate stamped. So I stamped the certificate right on her letter and then I filled it out like that. So she was like, oh, thank you, because it was late. She was like, we needed it like now. And so she got it done, but I made sure, and then I wrote in my journal too, presented, she presented a letter, or for the first one I put on there, she did use my computer to locate document and for me to print it out, so I can make sure I have evidence that I gave her my laptop so she can find the document, just, all of that
Right.
to cover myself because it's still
Yes.
on my computer. And it's like, yes, on my computer, but I told her she could, and she signed, so covering myself.
You have
Okay.
to, especially, yeah.
Mhm. Yep, because I'm like, nope, I can't make any document for you.
Can't tell her what to do. You can't, none of that.
None of that. Okay, so let's see. We already know that individuals who are not licensed attorneys, including the great majority of the U.S. notaries, must avoid unauthorized practice of law.
Yep.
Statutes, governmental agency regulations, court rules, and court decisions throughout the U.S. declare it is prohibited and unlawful. So let's see, 411, section 26.4. The notary who is not an attorney should not authorize. Oh man, can you hear me? I had my thing back here the whole time. Probably her fault. Who is not an
You
attorney
went
should
in
not.
and out a little bit, but I heard you.
Okay. Should not advise, counsel, or represent a notary client in such a way as to engage in the unauthorized practice of law. So that sentence was kind of confusing for me. So I had just read this here and I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, I get it. So among the most well-known activities of lawyers is the representation of clients in courts before governmental administrative agencies and in negotiations of all kinds. Thus, non-lawyers may not represent parties in courts, administrative agencies, arbitrations, tribunals, or any other settings, regardless of whether the non-lawyers are paid for the representation. Non-lawyers may not consult or advise clients about legal matters, or in regard to the filing of documents in government agencies. So, for example, a notary who is not an attorney should not represent or assist a notary client at a hearing. And I'm like, wait, what? Why would a notary? Why would a notary do that? But
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay. That's why I
Well,
had to read it because
for
I'm
some
like,
of
what?
this, it must have been done at one time for them to put it in there and say you can't do that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, you're right. All right, so page 413. We just talked about that. Should not draft or prepare the instrument to be notarized.
Yep.
Specifically. Nope, I can't do it. I can't write it up. I can't type it up. I can't tell you what to print up. You got to do it yourself. 4, page 414, 26.6, and then page 415, 26.7. Now, this is true too, and sometimes we kind of get caught up with this because a person, especially older people, they'll ask you, "Can you explain this to me?" And it's like, I can't. Um, I can read it to you because you know how some people like you will read it and you won't understand it, but if somebody reads it to you, it's like, "Oh, okay, I know what they're saying."
Yep.
So it's like, okay, I can read it to you, but I cannot tell you what my own understanding is of it so that you will understand. I can't do that. All right. And then it says the notary who is neither an attorney nor a professional in a law related field should not read or review the document to be notarized. Now, I didn't agree with that. I didn't because when whenever we have to notarize a document, we have to make sure there's no blanks, right? We got to make sure that we're not notarizing anything blank. So how can I not review it? If there's blank lines, I need to make sure that they were left blank for someone else and that they're not purposely left blank to be filled in after I leave.
You have to read a part of it.
Yeah. So I got to review some of it. I got to
And
make sure that.
like you were just saying, reading it to somebody. That's reading it.
Mhm.
So are we to tell them, no, I can't read that to you? It's
Right, right. Because that's not against the law for us to do that. We can read the document to the person who's about to sign it. Oh yeah. So I didn't agree with that one. I didn't agree with that statement. You know, I understand what they're saying, but I didn't agree with it because in some situations you have to. I have to review it, make sure it's completed. If a person asks me to read the document to them, I can read it. I can read it to them. I can.
but that's where
Okay.
making that note in your journal as to why you did, or
Yep.
you're not just
Yep.
reading it because there's a reason why you did, and notating it.
Signer asked me to write it means signer asked me to read the document. Exactly. Okay. Let me see. Oh, did I turn the page? Yeah, I did. Okay. Page 416 and 417, 26.8 and 26.9. Yeah, so a notary who is not an attorney, but who is a professional in a law-related field, we still have to be careful with engaging in unauthorized practice of law, which, like I said, is difficult. That's difficult when you know, what's going on. It's hard to try to not, but you do. You just gotta be careful with that. Definitely don't want to, make any violations or have anybody reporting you for something that you think that you were doing out of the kindness of your heart, and then it's like, oh, really? Like, yeah, well, she told me, like, wait a minute. I was helping you out. Okay, let's see. And then 26.9, we already know this, we spoke about this earlier. Um, about us not advising the client in the selection of the type of document to notarize, right?
Right.
Her telling me, well, I need this document. Can you, type it up for me and get, no, I can't. I can't do that. But you can Google it. There's a bunch of blank templates and stuff. Google what you're looking for, read it to see if it's what you want me to notarize. And then you can come and, print it out on my computer if you want. I have plenty of printers here, but I can't sit up there and, type it out for you.
And I've got a couple of people that have asked me. It almost caught me on one of them about the notarial certificate. It's like, no, I can't tell you which one to use on there because should I use this one or should I use it? I can't tell you that. But I've come close. It's like, whoop, whoop.
Like, whoops, wait.
Nope. Here's your options.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, we're done. Woohoo!
Yay.
You just could. You.
Yay, Mom.
Oh, and now she hitting me. I guess she like, I told you I want to sit on your. Okay. All right. We are finally
what do
getting
we
to the
got?
end of this book.
Go
All
to
we got
30,
left
27 to
is
30.
right.
We can do this.
Yes, we can. 27 to 30 next week, and then we are done with the book. It doesn't seem like it's a
Wow.
lot anyway. It's not a lot. It's way
No, it's not.
smaller than the ones we just read. Let me see. Yep. Look at this. That's real small.
It's
4
small compared
chapters?
to what we-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
And a couple of them are really short. So yeah, we
Mhm.
can do this.
Maybe I'll find my highlighter in the meantime.
Hope you
I
do.
have my highlighter. All right. All right, Donna. So
All
next
right,
week
Lydia.
we'll
Yep.
be done with this book. Yes.
Yay, got through.
Yes.
But it's been good.
Exactly.
It's a
It
good.
has.
It's a good book.
It has. It has. It helped me with some information, that I didn't already know, or elaborated on some things that I did know. And it was like, oh, things that make you think like, okay. Yeah. And like I said, I always enjoy his tips on here and his little case studies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learn a lot from that
Those
stuff.
were the most important. Yes, absolutely. Because there's situations that you wouldn't think would happen. You're like, that happens? Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So, all righty.
All right.
So until next time, I'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
All right. Sounds good. See you then.
All
Bye.
right. Good night. Bye.